All right, guys, today we are looking at contents of consciousness. So, other than awareness, psychologists look at content limitations, controlled and automatic processes, perceptual and cognitive distortions, emotional awareness, self-control, and time orientation. Content limitations. This is basically the idea that everything that's coming in towards us through our senses, so what we hear, smell, taste, see, feel, becomes more restricted in normal waking consciousness than in an altered state of consciousness. Now, that might not make sense at first, but let's explain a bit more. In normal waking consciousness, we can control what we allow in through selective attention. So, if we are, for example, out in the park, like we saw in our example the other day with selective attention, and we're trying to read a book, there could be sirens going past, people talking obnoxiously on the phone, there could be dogs barking. You don't want to be taking all of that information in when you're trying to concentrate on reading a book. So you can select what we want and block what we don't want. You really struggle to do this in certain states of consciousness that are altered. So you can't concentrate as well on a particular thing like reading a book. Siren goes past. Oh, it's a siren. Someone's talking obnoxiously. Oh, they're talking obnoxiously. Dog's barking. Oh, dog's barking. And you go back to your book and you're like, where was I? And you have to start all over again. So normal waking consciousness has more limited content through selective attention than in an altered state of consciousness. It's also more organized and logical. And if you think about dreams, that makes sense. Dreams don't make sense. You walk through a door and all of a sudden you've gone from a living room to a forest. It doesn't make sense. It's illogical and it's disorganized. Why are you suddenly in a forest? It doesn't make sense. Controlled and automatic processes. Again, we looked at this in terms of selective and divided attention. So normally, controlled processes are associated with selective attention, and automatic processes are associated with divided attention. What are controlled processes? These are things that have a conscious alert awareness and mental effort. So you have to put mental effort into doing it. You're actively focusing your attention on achieving a particular goal. And we often do it when a task is novel or new or difficult. And because it's novel or new, we haven't done it before, our neural pathways aren't used to it, it usually is something that is quite slow to complete. And that makes sense. Whenever you do something for the first time, it usually takes a lot longer than the second, third, fourth time you have a go at it. It also tends to be serial. So because it is difficult or new and it takes such time and it takes so much attention, you can usually only do one task at a time. Automatic processes, on the other hand, don't have much conscious awareness or mental effort required. You don't have to pay attention to it. It doesn't interfere with the performance of other activities. We usually use it with familiar and simple tasks, and because they're familiar and simple, they're quick to complete. And because we can do it with other tasks and it doesn't hinder the performance of other activities, we call it parallel. So we can handle two or more tasks at a time. So let's look at these examples here. Technically, your answers to this are quite clear-cut. Which is controlled, which is automatic. Listening to music should be an automatic process. You can do it while you are doing other things. For example, you might listen to music while you're trying to read a book. However, in this example, you're seeing he's concentrating really hard. And because he looks like he's concentrating really hard, you might argue that this particular picture is a controlled process rather than an automatic process. Perhaps he is putting a lot of selective attention into finding a particular musical style or note or combination going on in what he's listening to. Driving, if you're asked an exam question, again, clear-cut answer. It is a controlled process. And that makes sense when we look at the definition of a controlled process. It's novel, for at least you guys, for most people. It is difficult. It has a lot of components to it. You're constantly having to take in a lot of awareness of what's going on around you. You're completing tasks that require multiple body parts that need to be coordinated. You're using your eyes, you're using your hands, you're using your feet. So it is a controlled process. As you get older, it becomes more of an automatic process. Key thing you need to know, almost can be guaranteed an exam question on this. Altered states of consciousness have lower levels of alertness and awareness. So automatic processes become more difficult to complete. Now, that doesn't make sense at first, but let me explain. When you're in an altered state of consciousness, all of the information coming at you isn't necessarily coming through. So, because an automatic process requires that information to be at least mildly attended to, it becomes more difficult to complete. So controlled processes are actually performed better in altered states of consciousness because what is limited in terms of what you're alert and aware of, you can focus your attention on. So controlled processes are actually performed better in altered states of consciousness than automatic processes. And just quickly going for an example of that. So if you had to drive and you are really tired from the night before, you're probably better at driving down the road than you are at trying to eat and watch TV. You're probably more likely to make a mistake eating and watching TV, maybe miss your mouth with the biscuit, than you might be driving down the street. However, we're going to talk about that in more detail next session. Perceptually, being in an altered state of consciousness can result in two effects of the senses. So it can either make you more receptive or it can dull your senses. So if it's more receptive, everything's more vivid. Colors are brighter, smells are stronger, tastes are stronger. You're more sensitive to what you're feeling. And you may have heard of particular induced altered states of consciousness that cause that. You can even get ones that cause hallucinations. So you're seeing things that aren't there, smelling things that aren't there, hearing things that aren't there. But it can do the opposite. So you can increase your pain tolerance because you're not feeling as much. You can lose touch with what is occurring around you. So you're no longer attending at all to sounds around you. And something like hypnosis is a really good example of this. Distortions of perception can lead to feelings of loss of identity. So you may sort of see yourself outside of yourself. You can get people reporting those sorts of instances. They can have a loss of reality. They may not be able to see what is real and what is not. Cognitively, you are becoming illogical and disorganized when in an altered state of consciousness compared to a normal waking consciousness experience. And that means it will affect your memory. So people in altered states of consciousness are more likely to have memory blocks or forget things or short-term memory loss. So you may have heard people who have gone into comas can have amnesia. So that's an effect of memory from an induced state of consciousness. It can affect problem solving, decision making. Think about people who are on illicit drugs or high alcohol contents. They make silly decisions. They do things that are dangerous. Their problem solving skills are pretty poor. So cognitively, you are massively impacted and distorted. Emotional awareness. When we're in an altered state of consciousness, our emotions go to turmoil, all right? They make no sense, and you get these really uncharacteristic responses. You can become way more emotional and express your emotions more openly than you would in normal waking consciousness. So some people who are alcohol affected may become crying, blubbering mess. And they may tell someone that they're totally in love with them when they would never have normally said that. It can do the opposite though. You can have feelings or no feelings at all for an event or situation that might normally produce a highly emotional response. So sometimes you hear people drinking their feelings away. The problem with this is, obviously, there's massive impacts on your body and other aspects of your consciousness. And altered states of consciousness can actually cause inappropriate emotional responses, and it can be unpredictable. So you're not always going to get what you've had before. So if you're drinking, for example, to get rid of feelings, it could actually cause, in one day to the next, a more emotional response. So it's unpredictable. It also can cause an inappropriate emotional response. So you can get into an altered state of consciousness from a grief scenario. So say you've had the death of a loved one reported, you may laugh in that scenario. It's an inappropriate response emotionally because you're in an altered state of consciousness. Self-control. I like this picture at the top because it reminds me of my mum. She has one too many drinks and her self-control goes out the window. So coordination and control of movement, she becomes a terrible dancer. And it can also affect your control of emotions. So she wouldn't normally dance, but she gets overwhelmed with this emotion of, I love dancing, I'm just going to do it. But self-control can actually be increased in an old state of consciousness. So we can use it, for example, in terms of hypnosis. So hypnosis can increase our control of smoking, for example, or gambling, or alcoholism. Time orientation. So this is our perception of time and time-related experiences of the past, present, and future. So in normal waking consciousness, time passes uniformly, and we can reflect on the past, the present, and contemplate the future. In altered states of consciousness, however, we can have this loss of contact with time. So we're not really aware of time passing. We may have a complete awareness or lack of awareness of the past, the present, or the future, as we talked about amnesia before. So you may, if you've got Alzheimer's, think you're still 18 and that all that time hasn't passed and you're now 88. Time can be impacted to seem to occur more quickly or slowly. So think about when you have a nap. You wake up after a 15-minute nap and you're like, oh my gosh, I've been asleep for hours. I've missed everything. But in actual fact, you've only been asleep for 15 minutes. Alternatively, you can have the opposite. You can have been asleep for hours and hours and you think you only just fell asleep. So speed of time can be impacted when in an altered state of consciousness. Right, guys, have a go at learning activity 8.11.